Hey guys, here I am again, getting ready to show you a well, not quick, it's going to take about an hour, but a tutorial on how to do epoxy tabletops or countertops. I did a video yesterday and showed you a bunch of different blues, I guess, on the tabletop. Well, today I'm making another one that is purples. So these are the colors that we're going to be using. The main color is going to be this violet, and then the other colors are just going to be accents. Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to break everything down, pretty specific for you on how I make my epoxy tables. And as with any type of material, follow the manufacturer, the MSDS, all of that on the specific epoxy that you end up buying. Now I'm using a base coat just from Colored Epoxies. Got a resin and a hardener. Now this epoxy you mix 2 to 1. So on the hardener, we are going to use our gauge here, 2 to 1. And we're gonna put, well, now I'm all confused with this. It's okay, you know what, I'm just gonna use ounces. So we're gonna go at 8 ounces. Hopefully I have enough. Oh yeah. All right, right at 8 ounces. You want to be very specific on your measurements with this, because that's a chemical reaction. That's how, if you get one of the measurements off on either of the parts, it's not going to cure correctly. Now, little tidbit on this, always do your hardener first and try to swirl it around and get all of the edges coated. That makes it so when you mix it, the hardener mixes better with the epoxy. All right, so now we're gonna go up to 24 ounces. All right. Now the mixer I'm using, pretty basic mixer that you can buy from Home Depot, Lowe's, anything like that. When you mix, make sure that you go relatively slow. This is the most important part. I'm gonna set the camera down here for a second. Do this. Slowly put your mixer into your container. The less bubbles, the better. This particular epoxy mixes pretty fast compared to this other epoxy that I'm going to show you for all of the color variations. Always wipe off your mixer. I'm going to be using this for all the other colors as well. Now bear with me, I shut my garage door this time to try to keep bugs out. I keep having bugs landing on my tabletop after I finish it. Gets pretty annoying. I'm gonna throw some gloves on now. Probably should have put them on before I started. If you guys enjoy my videos, definitely check out the rest of my page. I've got some how-to tutorials on concrete. And what's up, Emilio? Happy birthday, brother. All right, so here is the white epoxy. Now, we are going to use just a foam roller. You can use a spatula if you want to. This foam roller works perfect. Now, we're not painting this on, we're just going to be moving it around. Now, this tabletop is for Katie Pie here. This is for her own desk in her room. All right, so we're just gonna try to pour it on in an even, relatively even pour.
Daddy?
This is epoxy, baby.
What is epoxy?
It is plastic.
What's plastic?
Oh, you know what plastic is.
No, I mean, what is the white stuff?
It's plastic, it's liquid plastic.
And why is it so white? Daddy, are these the blue spots that you use for Annie's?
That's right. All right, so when we move this around, it's pretty simple. I'm not too specific when I first start off. I just try to push the epoxy around. You can see how it's just flowing in the front. Just trying to move it around and get a relatively good coverage. And that's all we're shooting for. We're not painting.
Daddy,
We're just
what is
moving this material around.
Daddy, what is this
It is a self-leveling material, so as long as you have it... Katie, babe. Hey. As long as you have it relatively level, it will self-level itself. So my last video took about 54 minutes. We're going to try to beat that tonight. Not take quite as long to do this. I think I spent a little bit more time explaining on my last one. Alright, so we've got it pretty covered right now. So now, on these edges, I'm going to show you,
Daddy,
we're going to paint a little bit of this epoxy on the edge. And what we're doing is, Katie, I need you to go inside, baby. Okay? So, we're doing this to break the surface tension on the edge. I'm going to only do half of it, that way you can kind of see what I'm talking about on this. So we're going to take this edge and we're going to push it over and let it flow down the side. That's actually doing pretty good. Okay, so my example is not working out very well. There's one, I guess. Okay, so if you look on the side where I broke the surface tension, it has a pretty smooth, perfect flow over the top. And then over here, you see where it's just running and it's making those drip lines. That's why we break the surface tension before we have it flow over the side, okay? So, just paint a little bit of the epoxy on the side, it breaks the surface tension, and then we're going to push it over the side. Let it kind of flow over. Just continuing to push this over the side so there's a nice flow. It's eventually going to flow all the way down the side. And then this last side here, paint a little epoxy on to break that surface tension. And get it flowing nice and good over top of it. Okay, so now we need to bring it back from the edge, or from the center to the edges, okay? So try to do full flows all the way across when you do this. You're adding a little bit of extra to the sides so that you get a nice coat on the side. And then you're leveling out that center a little bit more. Now this white, you're actually not going to be able to see much of the white once I'm done. Like I said, the main color of this is going to be purple. All right, so that's it. So I'm done with this roller now. Just throw it on the floor. We're not going to use that again. Now for this second part, I will be using a 2-part marine resin. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm a cameraman and the worker bee. So I've got this Pro Marine Supply epoxy hardener and tabletop, or just the actual epoxy part A. This runs about 60 bucks for the kit, so you're looking at 30 bucks a jug. At this point, I've done 2 projects with these bottles. I've probably got another 2 or 3 left in here, so it does stretch quite a ways. And I am going to set you down again and turn. Yes, Melissa, I am doing Katie's right now. So, hardener first. Always do hardener first. We're going to do 2 at the same time. This is a 1-to-1 mix. So we're going to go up to 12 ounces on both of them. Like I said, I always do the hardener first. Then before you pour the actual epoxy part A into it, take and swirl this around all of your edges. Try not to spill any. Now you have pretty good work time with this. The only thing is if you leave it in the container, you're going to lose that workability. Chemical reaction, this creates a lot of heat, and with it contained in the cup, it's going to generate a lot more heat, so it's going to cure a lot faster, and it can become a little dangerous at that point. It will get so hot that it'll burn your skin and it'll melt through this plastic. All right, so we poured 12 ounces of hardener. We're going to go up to the 24-ounce mark with this epoxy. Go for it. I always try to wipe off the bottles after I pour. It won't dry because it's not mixed when it's separate. All right, so now real quick, see if I can mix one of these while you're watching. So all the epoxy went to the bottom, if you can see that. So we're gonna put our mixer in and start mixing. So you see how it's gotten kind of glazy? Well, we're going to mix until that glaze goes away completely. It should be clear by the time we're done, and that's going to let you know that it's actually mixed. If it's not clear and you still see a little bit of glaze in there, or you see swirls, that means you don't have it mixed enough and you need to keep mixing. The most important part of this whole project, because if you don't mix this properly, it's not going to cure correctly, and you're going to end up with tacky spots and just a kind of a cracky end deal that there's not much to do to fix it. You probably end up having to throw it away. So I'm going to set you back down and finish this up. You don't want to mix too fast, so turn the settings down on whatever drill or mixer you're using. If you go too fast, you're going to suck bubbles in from the top, and you don't want bubbles in this. So just take your time mixing this. Patience is definitely a virtue when it comes to this part. It is hot in this garage with the door shut. All right. So I've got these mixed up now. I'm going to transfer them into smaller cups with my main colors. Now the colors I'll be using is violet. I use mica powder. I don't recommend using acrylics or epoxies or anything like that. You'll throw off the curing ratio. We're going to use a little bit of pewter in there, a little bit of copper, Shiraz, that's a new one, and amethyst. All right, so I'm going to use 2 cups of this violet. Now I want this to be a little darker. So normally we're only going to put about this much in here. It goes a long ways. But I'm going to double it up on each of these and make sure that it's a lot darker. And then mix it up. So this one, I don't really care if it's a perfectly good mix. Kind of want it to be a dirty mix, I guess. And you'll see in the finished product why. It makes a lot of different variations in the color. It gives a really cool effect. So during this whole mixing process now, that white is curing, and it's not going to flow quite as much as what this top layer is going to flow, and it's curing at a different rate now. So we'll actually get a pretty cool effect once we add these colors into it as well. Alright, so the dark purple's done. Now we're going to mix up this Shiraz. And I want all of these colors to be pretty dark and just really full of vibrance. So, like I said, I'm going to use about 2 times the amount that you would normally use on all of these mixtures. I will be mixing up another batch of the purple as well. Now there's going to be little clumps in this too, and I want those clumps to stay in it. It just adds another dimension to the finished product. All right, now amethyst, last one. Well, actually it's not, I got 2 more colors, I guess. So I've already got a fly bugging me. You can see him on my chest there. You want to take some bets that he's going to land in the top of this at some point tonight? All right. One's mixed up. Do the black now. This black I'm not going to put as much in here because I only have about 1/3 of the cup full. Okay, so this is not black. I grabbed the wrong one. This is pewter. So it'll be silver. I'm going to add a little bit of black to it. Because the kiddo said she wanted black, she didn't say she wanted silver. Cool part about this is, honestly, you can make your own colors, your own mixtures. Doesn't really matter. Just like if you're mixing up paint, if you don't like the tint or the hue of something, you can change it up by adding whites or whatever, and it'll change pretty easily. Okay. Forgot to mention, make sure that you have a drink on hand. Calms your nerves. You don't overthink things. So here's our black amethyst. I think that was Shiraz, and then our violet. So my kiddo said that she wanted it wavy but crazy. So we're gonna try to do a wavy but crazy pour here. And we'll see what happens. All right. So I definitely want a lot more purple. That purple is not as dark as what I was hoping it would be. All right, so now the rose color. Oops. That's all the black I want to use. So I'm going to mix up a bunch more of it, make it quite a bit darker than the last one. I've got this whole jug left right here, so I'm just going to go crazy. Put about half the bag in there. And I want this to be mixed up pretty good, so if you guys could feel this cup, it's been sitting in this big container for the last 10 minutes or so, and it is hot. Almost to the point of burning me through it. Once again, I'm going to pour it into these smaller cups. Gives me a little better idea of how much material I have. Beer. Yeah. Alright, so now I'm going to pour this in the center of my other purple. Or as close to the center as my fan will let me. So I'll be honest, I did not think that red was as red as it actually is. I thought it was more of a magenta color. Not happy with that, the way that's coming out. But maybe I can do something to make it not quite so bright. Man, that is hot. The only thing I can really think of to get rid of that red is to add more epoxy to this. But I think I'm done, and I don't think that copper is going to look good on it. So we're not going to put the copper on there. Now there's a couple different types of things you can use. I'm going to use this plastic scraper. You can use a spatula like this. But now we're going to actually give it some character. So we're going to very lightly drag the surface of this. And we want to try to follow the design that you've created. This is going to blend a lot of the colors. Makes it look a lot more natural as far as flowing. There's nothing about this that looks natural. Now I'm really trying to get this white to mix up, because as it cures, man, it's an amazing effect that will happen when you break up that white. So I'm trying to make sure that I touch every edge. So that I don't have any distinct lines from the pour. Now, if you don't want to do this step, by all means, you don't have to. If you like the way it looks with the more solid lines, well, that's on you. I like to get a little bit more natural flowing look to it. I think this is where I'm going to be on this one. Okay, so now I'm going to go around the edges and just try to blend out these runs just a little bit. I don't like to mess with the edges too much because they are not going to flow and fix themselves like the top. And this is already starting to set up on me. It's because I left that one set of epoxy in that cup and it started curing a lot faster. But I think this is it, guys. There we go. That's better. Okay, so now we just let the top do its thing, all right? It's going to continue to spread itself out and blend a little bit more. A lot of that white is going to start separating and create these amazing textures. You can see all of the pearlescence in that deep purple, the violet. So now I'm going to go through and give a quick scrape on the bottom here and take all these drips off. Now this is a step that you're going to have to do for the next hour and a half or so because it will continue dripping And until it really cures on the surface, we've got to just sit here and walk around and scrape all of these off. About every 15 minutes I always check on it and do a quick scrape, so I don't sit here the entire time. But I'm going to scrape all these edges off, and then we're going to take care of all of the bubbles that are in the surface, on the surface and the sides. Now you guys see that there's a trough on this that catches the epoxy. Well, it doesn't catch all of the epoxy, but if you don't do the trough, you're gonna be in a world of hurt because it will make a mess on your floor. So this last step, use this blowtorch, kick it on, get to play with some fire. So this is plastic, remember, so you will burn it, you can melt it even though it's liquid. You will discolor it and just in general mess it up. So very quickly, go over the top. What this does is it pops little tiny bubbles that are on the surface. If you stay in one spot too long, like I said, you'll end up burning it. Hit the sides. And now I'm going to go back across this way, just in case I missed some spots. You can actually see more bubbles popping. So I know I did miss some stuff. So if you're in a garage like me and it's 85, 90 degrees and you're leaning over the top of it, make sure you don't drip any sweat on it. You're gonna end up messing up the finish if you drip water on it. Yes, I have leaned from experience. Okay, so here's a quick look of this. You can see that white is already separating very nicely all the way through this. Looks pretty neat right now. I hope she doesn't get mad that there's too much red in it, but still really cool. Now if y'all want to stay on for a little bit, I'll show you the last tabletop that I knocked out. And the desk that we ended up putting together. Because that countertop now is done. And I'm not going to move it for about 24 hours. It takes 72 hours for it to completely cure. Here, let me show you this desk setup real quick. Now Katie's gonna have the same one. All right, so this is just a neat little desk, bunch of drawers, and this is how this last one finished up. She told me she wanted waves. Wasn't sure how to make waves, so instead I went with what looks like flowing water with, you know, white foam. But all right, guys, I appreciate you watching on your Friday evening, spending it with me. And I usually do about one project a week. This week I did 2. So just follow me, follow my business page. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions, shoot, let me know. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good weekend. Oh, all I did was switch you around. Let's finish.